Sarah Bennett's scream tore through the Wyoming mountains like a gunshot.
"He's alive! Oh God, he's alive!"
Her knees slammed into frozen ground as Titan, her Belgian Malinois, clawed frantically at the snow. What emerged wasn't snow-covered earth. It was a face. Blue-lipped, frost-covered, barely breathing. Navy SEAL dog tags glinted against a throat that shouldn't be moving. The duct tape across his mouth told her everything. This wasn't an accident. This was a burial. And whoever put him here was still watching. Where are you watching from? Hit subscribe and stay until the end. This story will shake you. Drop your city in the comments so I can see how far the truth travels. Sarah's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Not from the cold, though Wyoming's February wind cut like broken glass, but from what she'd just pulled out of the ground. A living man. Buried. Taped. Left to freeze. "Stay with me," she said, her voice cracking as she ripped the thermal blanket from her emergency pack and wrapped it around his shoulders. "You hear me? Stay with me." The man's eyes fluttered open, dark, unfocused, pupils blown wide with hypothermia and terror. His lips moved, but no sound came. Just breath. Just fog against the frozen air. Titan barked once, sharp and urgent, then pressed his nose against the man's neck, checking for a pulse the way he'd been trained. The dog's whole body vibrated with tension, ears rotating like radar dishes, scanning the tree line. Sarah followed his gaze. Nothing moved. Just pines. Just snow. Just the terrible silence that comes before something breaks. "Who did this to you?" Sarah whispered, even though she knew he couldn't answer yet. His hand twitched, fingers curled weakly around her wrist. His mouth opened, trying to form words, and she leaned closer, her ear near his cracked lips. "They're watching." The words hit her like ice water. Sarah's head snapped up. Her right hand moved instinctively toward her concealed carry, fingers brushing the grip. Titan growled, low, guttural, the kind of sound that meant threat. "Where?" she breathed, but the man's eyes had rolled back. His grip loosened. His chest still moved, but barely. Sarah's training kicked in before panic could. She grabbed her satellite messenger and activated the emergency beacon, then pulled out the whistle and blew 2 sharp blasts. Sound carried in these mountains. If anyone was close, they'd hear. If anyone wanted to help. She pressed 2 fingers against his neck. Pulse was there, thready, weak, but there. Core temp was dangerously low. She needed to get him warm without shocking his system. Needed transport. Needed medical. Needed to know who the hell had done this. Titan suddenly lunged 3 steps forward, teeth bared, staring into the forest with absolute focus. And then Sarah saw it. A figure, maybe 200 yards out, standing between the pines like a shadow that had learned to hold still. Too far to make out features, close enough to be deliberate. Watching. Sarah's stomach dropped. "Hey!" she shouted, her voice raw. "Hey! We need help!" The figure didn't move, didn't wave, didn't run. Just stood there, a dark shape against white snow, observing like this was a lab experiment and she was the variable being tested. Then it turned, slow, unhurried, and disappeared into the trees as if the forest had swallowed it whole. "No," Sarah whispered. "No, no, no." Titan barked again, frantic now, pulling against his lead toward where the figure had vanished. "Titan, hold!" Sarah commanded, voice hard. The dog stopped immediately but didn't relax. His whole body screamed danger. Sarah looked down at the man, at his dog tags. She hadn't read them yet. Her fingers were clumsy in her gloves as she lifted the metal. Loteen Marcus Flynn, SEAL Team 7, OPOS. A Navy SEAL, buried alive in the Wyoming backcountry, and someone had just watched her find him. The sound of snowmobile engines cut through the air, distant but getting closer. Help. Finally. But Sarah's chest tightened instead of easing, because the figure hadn't run when she'd screamed for help. It had waited until the engine started, like it wanted to see who would come. 3 snowmobiles roared into the clearing, throwing up plumes of powder. 2 sheriff's deputies, 1 paramedic. Sarah had never been so relieved and so afraid at the same time. The lead paramedic dismounted fast, young guy, late 20s, blonde buzz cut, county EMS patch on his jacket. His name tag read Hayes. "Ma'am, step back, let us work," Hayes said, already pulling out a medical kit. But his eyes weren't on Marcus. They were on Sarah. "What happened?" Hayes asked. "I found him," Sarah said, not moving. "My dog alerted. He was buried under the snow." Buried. Hayes repeated the word slowly, like he was tasting it for lies. "Buried," Sarah confirmed, "with duct tape across his mouth." The 2 deputies exchanged a glance. One of them, a stocky woman with short gray hair and a face carved by weather, stepped closer. "I'm Deputy Carla Munoz," she said. "That's Deputy Ben Hale." She nodded toward the younger man, tall and quiet, already scanning the area with a flashlight. "You're sure about the tape?" Sarah pointed at the strip of silver duct tape lying in the snow, partially frozen, with raw skin cells still stuck to the adhesive. Munoz crouched and examined it without touching. Her jaw tightened. "Hayes, you seeing this?" Munoz called. But Hayes was already working on Marcus, checking vitals, pulling out warming packs, calling numbers into his radio. Professional. Efficient. Maybe too efficient. "Pulse is 42, breathing shallow, core temp reading 91 degrees. We need transport now," Hayes said into the radio. Then he looked at Sarah again. "Did he say anything?" "He said someone was watching," Sarah answered. Hayes's hands paused for just a fraction of a second. "Watching?" "That's what he said." "Did you see anyone?" Sarah hesitated. Titan leaned against her leg, still tense. "Yes," she said quietly. "In the trees. They left when they heard you coming." Munoz stood up fast. "Hale, get on the radio. Tell Sheriff Dawson we've got a possible suspect in the area. Active threat." Hale nodded and moved toward his snowmobile. Hayes's face stayed neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. "Ma'am, hypothermia can cause confusion, hallucinations. He might have been disoriented." "I'm not talking about him," Sarah cut him off. "I'm talking about me. I saw someone, standing, watching, and they didn't run until you showed up." Hayes's hands resumed their work, but his voice dropped lower. "What were you doing out here?" The question landed wrong. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Do you need medical attention?" What were you doing out here? Like she was the problem. Sarah's spine straightened. "Walking my dog." "Long way from the main trail," Hayes observed. "He's a tracking dog. He tracks." Munoz stepped between them. "Hayes, focus on the patient. Ms. Bennett, Sarah Bennett. Ms. Bennett, I'm going to need a full statement, but first, are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" "I'm fine." "You're shaking." "I just pulled a man out of a grave," Sarah said, voice tight. "I'm allowed to shake." Munoz's expression softened just slightly. "Fair enough." They loaded Marcus onto a rescue sled. Hayes worked quickly, muttering medical jargon into his radio, wrapping Marcus in thermal blankets and starting an IV line. Everything looked right, but Titan wouldn't stop growling. "Your dog okay?" Munoz asked. Sarah looked down. Titan's eyes were locked on Hayes. Not aggressive, not playful, just watchful. "He's fine," Sarah said, but she didn't believe it. As they secured Marcus for transport, his eyes opened again, just for a second. His gaze found Sarah, locked on, and his lips moved. Sarah leaned in close. "Don't trust comms," Marcus whispered, so faint she almost missed it. Then his eyes closed again. Sarah straightened slowly, her pulse hammering. Don't trust comms. Communications, radio, phones, the system. She looked at Hayes, who was speaking into his radio again, looked at the deputies, looked at the snowmobiles with their county logos and official lights, and realized Marcus hadn't been warning her about the man in the trees. He'd been warning her about the people who were supposed to help. The hospital was small, the kind of rural facility that smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner, where fluorescent lights buzzed too loud, and the waiting room chairs were bolted to the floor like they expected a fight. Sarah sat in one of those chairs now, Titan at her feet, watching the double doors that had swallowed Marcus 20 minutes ago. Deputy Munoz sat across from her, notepad open, pen ready. "Walk me through it again," Munoz said gently. Sarah did. The timeline, the location, Titan's alert, the digging, the tape, the figure in the trees, Marcus's whisper. Munoz wrote it all down without judgment, without interruption. When Sarah finished, Munoz looked up. "And Hayes's questions bothered you?" "They felt wrong." "Wrong how?" Sarah chose her words carefully. "He was more interested in what I was doing there than in who buried a Navy SEAL alive." Munoz didn't disagree. She just nodded slowly. "Hayes has been with county EMS for 3 years. Clean record. Good responder. But..." She hesitated. "But what?" "But I don't know him well. He transferred from out of state. Keeps to himself." Sarah's chest tightened. Munoz closed her notepad. "Ms. Bennett, I'm going to be straight with you. If what you're saying is true, if someone buried that man and then watched you find him, we're not dealing with a random act. We're dealing with someone organized, someone confident." "Someone who knew help was coming," Sarah added. Munoz's jaw flexed. "Yeah." The double doors swung open and a woman in navy scrubs stepped out. Late 30s, dark skin, tight bun, sharp eyes that looked like they'd seen too many people die and refused to accept one more. Her name tag read Dr. Elena Martinez. "He's stable," Dr. Martinez said without preamble. "Hypothermic, dehydrated, malnourished, but alive, which is a miracle considering." "Can he talk?" Munoz asked. "Not yet. Maybe not for a while. His body's been through hell." "How long was he out there?" Dr. Martinez's expression darkened. "Based on his condition? 3 days, maybe 4. Sarah's stomach turned. 4 days buried alive. "The tape," Dr. Martinez continued. "That wasn't applied carelessly. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. It was tight enough to keep him quiet, but not tight enough to suffocate him immediately. They wanted him to die slow." Munoz swore under her breath. "There's something else," Dr. Martinez said quietly. She glanced around the hallway, checking for listeners. "His restraints, wrists, ankles, the marks suggest military-grade zip ties. And his burial position, it's tactical, efficient. This wasn't done by amateurs." Sarah felt the room tilt slightly. Dr. Martinez looked directly at her. "You saved his life. I don't know what you did or how you found him, but if you'd been 10 minutes later—" She didn't finish the sentence. Titan shifted at Sarah's feet, ears rotating toward the far end of the hallway. And then Sarah heard it. Footsteps, measured, confident. A man rounded the corner, mid-50s, silver hair, expensive winter coat over business casual clothes. He walked like someone used to being obeyed. Behind him, two younger men in tactical jackets. No uniforms, no badges. Just the kind of quiet competence that screamed private security. The silver-haired man's eyes scanned the hallway and landed on Deputy Munoz. "I'm looking for the patient brought in from the wilderness recovery," he said. His voice was smooth, practiced. Munoz stood. "And you are?" The man reached into his coat, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a military ID. "Colonel Vincent Cross. I'm Lieutenant Flynn's commanding officer." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm here to ensure he receives proper care and to coordinate with local authorities regarding this incident." Sarah's blood went cold, because Marcus's last conscious words had been, "Don't trust comms." And now his commanding officer, the man who would have authorized his training mission, who would have known his location, who would have access to every resource needed to bury him, had just walked into the hospital. Titan growled, low, dangerous, and Colonel Vincent Cross's smile finally faltered as his gaze shifted to the dog. "That's a beautiful animal," Cross said softly. "Belgian Malinois, isn't it?" Sarah didn't answer. Cross's eyes moved to her face. "And you must be the woman who found Marcus. Sarah Bennett, is it?" He knew her name. She hadn't given it to anyone except Munoz. "How did you know I'd be here, Colonel?" Sarah asked, voice steady despite the adrenaline spiking through her veins. Cross's smile returned. "Small county, word travels fast, especially when one of my men goes missing and turns up half dead." "He didn't go missing," Sarah said. "He was buried." The hallway went silent. Cross tilted his head slightly, like she'd said something curious. "I'm sorry?" "Someone buried him, alive, with military-grade restraints, and left him to freeze." Cross's expression shifted, just for a heartbeat, into something harder. Then the smooth mask returned. "That's a serious accusation, Ms. Bennett." "It's not an accusation. It's a fact." Munoz stepped forward. "Colonel, with all due respect, this is now a criminal investigation. I'm going to need to coordinate with military CID." "Already done," Cross interrupted smoothly. "CID has been notified. They'll be here within the hour to take jurisdiction." "Jurisdiction over what?" Dr. Martinez asked, voice sharp. "A crime scene on public land?" Cross's gaze shifted to her. "A crime involving active-duty military personnel. That makes it a federal matter." "He's also a victim," Dr. Martinez shot back. "Which makes him my patient, and no one's moving him until I say he's stable enough." Cross's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Of course, Doctor. Patient welfare comes first." He looked back at Sarah. "Ms. Bennett, I'll need to speak with you. Get your account of what happened, purely procedural." "She's already given her statement to local law," Munoz said. "I'm sure she has, but I'd like to hear it directly." Sarah felt the weight of his attention like a hand pressing on her chest. "I'm happy to cooperate," Sarah said slowly. "Through official channels, with my attorney present." Cross's smile thinned. "Of course, though I'm curious why you'd need an attorney if you're just a witness." "Because the last person who trusted the wrong people ended up buried alive," Sarah said. The hallway went silent again. Cross studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded once, as if she'd confirmed something. "Well," he said quietly. "I can see Marcus was lucky you were the one who found him." He turned and walked away, his 2 security men following like shadows. As soon as they rounded the corner, Munoz exhaled hard. "That was stupid and brave," she muttered. "Stupid?" Sarah asked. "You just told a military colonel you don't trust him." "I don't." Dr. Martinez crossed her arms. "Neither do I. He didn't ask about Marcus's condition, didn't ask what I needed, didn't ask if his soldier was going to survive." Her voice dropped. "He asked about jurisdiction." Munoz pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Sheriff Dawson, now." Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her finger hovered over the screen. Every instinct screamed, "Don't answer." She answered anyway. Silence on the other end. Just breathing. Steady. Calm. Then a voice. Low. Male. No accent she could place. "You found what shouldn't be found." Sarah's throat went dry. "Winter is long. Accidents happen." The line went dead. Sarah stared at the screen as the call disappeared from her log, like it had never existed. Titan pressed against her leg, whining softly. Munoz looked up from her phone. "You okay?" Sarah opened her mouth to answer, and every light in the hospital went out. Emergency power kicked in 2 seconds later, dim red backup lights casting the hallway in blood-colored shadows. Somewhere down the corridor, an alarm started wailing. Dr. Martinez's face went pale. "That's the ICU." She ran. Munoz ran after her, and Sarah, against every shred of common sense, followed. Because Marcus was in the ICU, and the lights didn't go out by accident. And she'd already lost too many people by being too late. Titan led the way, pulling hard on his lead, nose down, tracking something Sarah couldn't see. They burst through the ICU doors. 3 nurses were gathered around Marcus's bed, working frantically. His heart monitor was screaming, erratic, spiking, crashing. Dr. Martinez shoved through. "What happened?" "He coded, just for a second, then stabilized," one of the nurses stammered. "How? He was stable 5 minutes ago." The nurse held up an empty syringe. This was in his 1.5 port. It wasn't charted. Dr. Martinez's face went white. Someone accessed his line. Munoz spun toward the hallway. "Security! I need security footage, now!" But Sarah wasn't listening anymore. Because Titan had stopped at the corner of the room, growling at the supply closet door. It was open. Just a crack. Sarah's hand moved to her weapon. "Munoz?" she said quietly. The deputy turned, saw where Sarah was looking, and drew her sidearm. They approached together. Munoz kicked the door open. Empty. Except for a contractor's vest hanging on a hook. Gray, nondescript, the kind a maintenance worker would wear. And on the floor, a small access badge. Munoz picked it up with a gloved hand. The name on the badge, Stephen Hayes. The paramedic who'd responded to the scene. The same one who'd asked too many questions and hadn't seemed surprised by any of Sarah's answers. "He was here," Sarah whispered. Munoz's face hardened into stone. "Put out an APB on Hayes, now. Armed and dangerous." But Sarah's mind was already racing ahead. Hayes had been at the burial site. Hayes had transported Marcus. Hayes had access to the hospital. And Hayes had just tried to finish what the snow hadn't. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time she didn't hesitate. She answered. The same calm voice. "This is your last warning, Ms. Bennett. Walk away." "Who are you?" Sarah demanded. A pause, then almost amused. Someone who's been burying problems a lot longer than you've been digging them up. The line died, and in the sudden silence, Sarah heard something that made her blood turn to ice. Marcus's voice. Weak, rasping, barely audible over the monitor beeps. "Sarah." She crossed to his bedside. His eyes were open, barely, but focused. "Marcus, don't talk. Save your strength." "My father," Marcus whispered. Sarah leaned closer. "Your father?" "Investigated. Same facility. 2 years ago." Sarah's heart stopped. "He died," Marcus continued, each word a battle. "Training accident," they said. "But he called me 3 days before." "Called you about what?" Marcus's hand found hers, weak, trembling. "He said, if anything happens to him, find the Wyoming drop site." His grip tightened slightly. "I found it. That's why they buried me." And then his eyes closed. The monitor stabilized, but Sarah's world tilted. Because Marcus had just confirmed what she'd been afraid to believe. This wasn't random. This was a cover-up. And her father. Her father. Sarah's father had been Army, Colonel James Bennett, decorated, honored. Dead 2 years from a training accident that the official report called equipment failure during a routine exercise. She'd believed it because she'd had no reason not to. But now... "Munoz," Sarah said, voice hollow. "I need to make a call." "To who?" "FBI." Munoz blinked. "You know someone at the Bureau?" Sarah looked down at Titan, then back at the deputy. "I am someone at the Bureau." Munoz stared at Sarah like she'd just announced she was from Mars. "You're FBI?" "Was," Sarah corrected. "Medical leave. 3 months now." "Medical leave for what?" Sarah's jaw tightened. "That's not relevant." "The hell it's not," Munoz shot back. "You're telling me you're a federal agent investigating a case you're not assigned to while on psych leave." "I didn't say psych, you didn't have to." Munoz's voice dropped. "I've been doing this 22 years. I know what medical leave means when someone won't look you in the eye saying it." Sarah felt the words hit like a slap. She forced herself to meet Munoz's gaze. "A hostage situation went wrong. A 12-year-old girl died. I was the negotiator. So yes, deputy, I'm on leave because I couldn't save a child, and my supervisor decided I needed to process before I could be trusted with a weapon again." The hallway went quiet except for the distant beeping of monitors. Munoz's expression softened just slightly. "I'm sorry." "I don't need sorry. I need to know what happened to Marcus Flynn and why my father's name just came out of his mouth." Dr. Martinez stepped between them. "Ladies, whatever jurisdictional pissing match you're about to have, take it outside my ICU. My patient just survived a murder attempt, and I've got 3 nurses who need statements." "Murder attempt?" Sarah repeated. "That syringe contained potassium chloride, enough to stop his heart and make it look like hypothermia complications." Dr. Martinez's voice was ice. Whoever accessed his line knew exactly what they were doing. Munoz pulled out her radio. "Dispatch, this is Munoz. I need Sheriff Dawson at County General, immediately. We've got an attempted homicide on the federal witness." "Copy that, Deputy. Sheriff's en route. ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes felt like forever. Sarah looked down at Titan. The dog's attention was locked on the hallway entrance, body coiled tight. "He's tracking someone," Sarah murmured. "Who?" "Whoever was in that supply closet." Munoz holstered her weapon. "Can he follow the scent?" Sarah considered it. "Not officially. I'm not authorized to deploy him." "But could he?" Sarah looked at Marcus's pale face, the fourth line still connected to his arm, the monitor showing a heartbeat that someone had just tried to stop. "Yeah," she said quietly. "He could." Munoz didn't hesitate. "Then do it." Sarah unclipped Titan's lead and gave the command. "Titan, such." The dog's nose dropped immediately. He circled the supply closet once, twice, then bolted toward the exit with Sarah and Munoz running behind him. They burst through the emergency exit into the cold night. Titan moved fast, nose skimming the snow-covered ground, tracking something only he could detect. He led them across the parking lot toward the far tree line where the hospital property met state forest. Then he stopped, sat, alert posture. "End of trail?" Munoz asked, breathing hard. "No," Sarah said. "This is his signal for vehicle departure. Whoever he was tracking got in a car here." Munoz scanned the snow. Fresh tire tracks led from the spot toward the access road. "Wide tread, heavy vehicle. Probably a truck or SUV." Munoz pulled out her phone and photographed the tracks. "I'll get these to the lab." Sarah's phone buzzed. Not unknown this time. A number she recognized. She answered. "Chen?" Agent David Chen's voice was crisp, professional. "Bennett, I just got a very interesting call from Wyoming County Sheriff's Office saying one of my agents is involved in a military investigation she's not cleared for." "I found a buried Navy SEAL, Chen. I didn't go looking for a case." "And now you're running tracking operations without authorization." A man almost died 20 minutes ago. Someone tried to kill him in his hospital bed. Chen was silent for 3 seconds. "You're sure?" "Potassium chloride in his IV. The doctor confirmed it." "Christ." Chen exhaled hard. "Okay, I'm reading the incident report now. Lieutenant Marcus Flynn, SEAL Team 7, found buried near Service Road 14 in Bridger-Teton territory." "That's him." "And he said something about your father." Sarah's throat tightened. "Yeah." "Your father died 2 years ago, Bennett. Training accident at Fort Carson. I read the file when you transferred to my unit." "What if it wasn't an accident?" "That's a hell of a leap." "Marcus said my father was investigating the same facility he was. Said my father called him 3 days before he died and told him to find a Wyoming drop site." "Did Flynn say what was at the drop site?" He coded before he could finish. Chen swore softly. "This is bad." "No kidding." "I mean, it's bad, Bennett. If there's a connection between a Navy SEAL getting buried alive and an Army colonel dying in a training accident, we're not talking about one bad actor. We're talking about a network." Sarah watched Munoz photograph the tire tracks, the deputy's face grim in the security light. "I need to see my father's case file," Sarah said. "You're on medical leave." "Chen." "Which means you have no authority, no clearance, and no business inserting yourself into an active investigation." "Then make it an active investigation." "I can't just—" "A Navy SEAL told me with his dying breath that my father was murdered. You think I'm going to walk away from that?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "No, I don't think you will. Which is why I'm going to do something incredibly stupid and tell you that I'll request your father's file through official channels. It'll take 48 hours minimum." "I don't have 48 hours. Whoever tried to kill Marcus tonight knows I'm involved. They've already threatened me twice." "Threatened you how?" Sarah told him about the phone calls, the voice, the warnings. Chen swore again, more creatively this time. "You need protection." "I have Titan." "A dog's not going to stop a bullet, Bennett. He'll smell the shooter before they pull the trigger." "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." Chen sighed. "I'm sending Field Agent Lena Park. She's out of the Denver office, specializes in military corruption cases. She'll coordinate with local law and provide federal oversight.
When?
She's wheels up in 90 minutes. Should be on site by 0400. Sarah checked her watch. It was barely past 8.
Tell her to bring the biggest coffee maker she can find, Sarah muttered. Bennett?
Yeah?
Don't do anything stupid before she gets there.
Define stupid.
Anything I wouldn't do.
Sarah almost smiled.
That's a pretty low bar, Chen.
The line went dead. Munoz walked over, face tight. Sheriff Dawson just called. We've got a problem. What kind? The kind where Stephen Hayes' personnel file is missing from county records, and his background check comes back clean. Too clean. Like someone scrubbed it. Sarah's stomach dropped.
How long has he been working here?
3 years. Hired after the previous head of county EMS retired. Retired or replaced? Munoz's eyes narrowed. Now that's an interesting question. They walked back into the hospital. The hallway had filled with people. More deputies, hospital security, a woman in a dark suit who screamed federal agent, even without the badge she flashed at the nurse's station. Sheriff Rebecca Dawson stood in the center of it all, like a lighthouse in a storm. Tall, rangy, pale blonde braid, and eyes that could freeze water. She spotted Sarah and Munoz and crossed the distance in 4 long strides. "You're Bennett," Dawson said. It wasn't a question.
Yes, ma'am. You found Lieutenant Flynn.
My dog found him. I just dug him out. Dawson's gaze dropped to Titan, who sat perfectly at attention, eyes watchful.
Your dog's got good instincts.
Best I've ever worked with. Dawson nodded once, as if that settled something.
Deputy Munoz says you're FBI.
Was. Medical leave.
She also says you think this connects to your father's death.
Sarah met the sheriff's ice blue stare.
I don't think. I know. Marcus Flynn told me directly. Flynn's unconscious. He woke up, briefly, long enough to say my father investigated the same facility Flynn was looking into and died for it.
Dawson's jaw tightened. And you believe him?
I believe someone buried a Navy SEAL alive and then tried to kill him in a hospital bed 20 minutes ago. I believe someone's been threatening me since I pulled him out of the ground. And I believe my father didn't die in a training accident.
Sarah's voice hardened.
So, yes, Sheriff, I believe him.
Dawson studied her for a long moment. Then she turned to Munoz. Get me everything on Colonel James Bennett. Service record, assignment history, incident reports, autopsy. All of it. Sheriff, that's Army jurisdiction. I don't care if it's Pentagon jurisdiction. A man was nearly murdered in my county, and I'm not waiting for federal bureaucrats to decide if they feel like sharing. Dawson's voice could have cut glass.
Get me the files.
Munoz nodded and pulled out her phone. Dawson looked back at Sarah.
Your FBI contact sending someone? Agent Lena Park. Should be here by 4 a.m. Good. Until then, you're staying in protective custody.
I don't need— That wasn't a request, Agent Bennett. Someone's trying to bury this case and everyone connected to it.
You just made yourself a target.
Dawson's expression softened slightly.
I've lost enough people to stupid pride. I'm not losing you because you think you're bulletproof.
Sarah wanted to argue, granted to say she could handle herself. But the truth was her hands were still shaking from finding Marcus, her chest still tight from the phone calls. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a 12-year-old girl's face kept asking why Sarah hadn't saved her.
Okay,
Sarah said quietly. Dawson nodded. Munoz will set you up in the family waiting room, armed deputy on the door. You don't leave without clearance.
What about Marcus?
Dr. Martinez is moving him to a secured room. 2 deputies on rotation. No one gets in without hospital credentials and a damn good reason. Dawson's voice dropped. Whoever tried to kill him is going to try again. We're going to be ready. As if summoned by the statement, Dr. Martinez appeared from the ICU, face pale. Sheriff, we've got another problem. What now? Marcus's blood work came back. The potassium chloride dose should have killed him instantly. But it didn't, Dawson said slowly. No, because someone else accessed his IV line before Hayes did. The hallway went silent. Someone gave him an antagonist, Dr. Martinez continued. A drug that would counteract potassium chloride if it was administered within a narrow window. Which means someone knew Hayes was going to try to kill him, Sarah finished. Dr. Martinez nodded. And they tried to save him. Munoz's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and her face went white. Sheriff, we've got a hit on the APB for Hayes. Where? Service Road 14, same location where Flynn was found. Dawson's eyes flashed. Is he in custody? No, ma'am. Munoz's voice was hollow. He's dead. Single gunshot to the head. Looks like suicide. But Sarah knew better, because Hayes had been a loose end, a man who knew too much and had failed his mission. And whoever was running this operation didn't leave loose ends breathing. Dawson's radio crackled. Sheriff, this is Deputy Hale at the scene. You need to see this. What is it, Hale? There's a note, pinned to the body. What's it say? Hale's voice cracked slightly. It says, "This is what happens to people who fail." Sarah's blood turned to ice. Dawson's hand moved to her weapon. Hale, secure that scene. No one in or out until forensics arrives. Yes, ma'am. But, Sheriff, there's something else. What? The bullet that killed Hayes. It's not from his service weapon. Then whose? We ran the ballistics through the database. It's a match for a weapon reported stolen from Fort Carson 2 years ago. Sarah's knees almost gave out. Fort Carson, where her father had died. Dawson's gaze locked on Sarah. Your father was stationed at Fort Carson. Yes. And Flynn was investigating equipment theft at a facility near there. Yes. And now the weapon that killed our suspect was stolen from the same base 2 years ago. Sarah's voice came out barely above a whisper. This isn't random. No, Dawson agreed. This is a message. Sarah's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Her finger hovered over the decline button. Dawson's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Answer it. Put it on speaker. Sarah answered, tapped speaker. The same calm voice filled the hallway. Hello, Sarah. Dawson's eyes narrowed. You're a hard woman to scare, the voice continued. I respect that. But respect only goes so far. Who are you? Sarah demanded. Someone who's been cleaning up messes for a very long time. Your father was a mess. Marcus Flynn was a mess. Stephen Hayes became a mess. You killed them. I did what was necessary to protect something bigger than one man's conscience. The voice paused. Your father was a good soldier. He just forgot that soldiers follow orders. And when he stopped following orders, he became a liability. Sarah's hands balled into fists. You murdered him. I eliminated a threat. Just like I'll eliminate you if you don't walk away. Dawson leaned closer to the phone. This is Sheriff Rebecca Dawson. You just confessed to multiple homicides on a recorded line. You're done. The voice laughed. Actually laughed. Sheriff, you have no idea how deep this goes. How many people are involved? How much money is at stake? The amusement faded. You can't stop this. No one can. Watch me, Dawson said. The line went dead. The hallway erupted into controlled chaos. Dawson barked orders. Munoz coordinated with dispatch. Deputies mobilized. And Sarah stood frozen, her father's face swimming in her vision. Titan pressed against her leg, warm and solid. Dr. Martinez touched her shoulder. You okay? No, Sarah said honestly. But I will be. Because now she had confirmation. Her father hadn't died in an accident. He'd been murdered. And whoever killed him had just made the mistake of threatening her directly. Sarah looked at Dawson. I want in on this investigation. You're on medical leave. I don't care. That's my father. That's my case. Dawson studied her. Can you handle it? Sarah thought about the 12-year-old girl, the negotiation that failed, the screaming, the silence after. She thought about her father, who'd taught her to shoot, to think, to stand up for what was right even when it was hard. And she thought about Marcus Flynn, buried alive for trying to expose the truth. Yeah, Sarah said. I can handle it. Dawson nodded slowly. Then you're going to need this. She handed Sarah a file, thin, marked classified. What is it? Your father's incident report. The real one, not the sanitized version the Army released. Dawson's voice dropped. I had a friend pull it, quietly, because I had questions even 2 years ago that never got answered. Sarah opened the file with shaking hands. The first page was a photograph. Her father's body, training field, equipment scattered. The official cause of death, blunt force trauma from equipment failure. But Sarah's trained eye caught something the report had missed. Her father's hands. They were positioned wrong, defensive, like he'd tried to block something. Or someone. This wasn't an accident, Sarah whispered. No, Dawson agreed. It wasn't. And somewhere in the Wyoming night, the man who'd killed her father was still breathing. But not for long. Sarah's hands wouldn't stop shaking as she stared at the photograph. Her father's body, his defensive wounds, the lie that had been printed as truth. How long have you known? Sarah asked, voice raw. Dawson didn't look away. I suspected from the beginning. Your father and I served together in the Gulf. He was the most careful man I ever met. Equipment didn't just fail around him. Then why didn't you say something? I did. To Army CID, to my chain of command, to anyone who'd listen. Dawson's jaw tightened. They buried it faster than they buried him. Sarah's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to let the tears fall. Not here. Not now. Titan whined softly and pressed his head against her hand. The autopsy report's on page 4, Dawson said quietly. Read it. Sarah flipped through the pages, medical jargon, technical details, and then she saw it. Trace evidence of ligature marks on her father's wrists, scrubbed from the official report, explained away as post-mortem artifact. But Sarah knew better. Her father had been restrained before he died. They tied him up, Sarah whispered. They made it look like an accident, and they tied him up first. Munoz appeared in the doorway, face grim. Sheriff, Agent Park just landed. She's 30 minutes out. Good. Tell her to come straight to the hospital. Dawson looked at Sarah. You're going to want to hear what she has to say. Why? Because she's been investigating military equipment theft for 18 months, and your father's name is all over her case files. Sarah's head snapped up. What? Agent Park reached out to me 6 months ago, asking questions about Colonel James Bennett. Wanted to know about his final assignment, his contacts, his movements before he died. Dawson's voice dropped. I didn't connect it to Flynn until tonight. Sarah felt the floor tilt slightly. My father was investigating equipment theft. Marcus was investigating equipment theft, and both of them ended up dead. Or almost dead, Munoz corrected, glancing toward the ICU. How many others? Sarah asked. No one answered. Because they didn't know. And that was the terrifying part. Sarah's phone buzzed. Chen, she answered. Yeah. I pulled your father's communication logs from the month before he died. You're not going to like this. Tell me anyway. He made 17 calls to a number registered to a Marcus Flynn. Last call was 3 days before he died. Lasted 42 minutes. Sarah's breath caught. What did they talk about? No idea. Military phones don't record content, just metadata. But here's the interesting part. Your father made 3 calls to an unlisted number in Washington, D.C. this same week. Each call less than 90 seconds. Who is he calling? That's classified above my pay grade, but I ran the exchange through a buddy at NSA. It's a Pentagon line, direct access, the kind used by colonels who need to talk to generals without going through channels. Sarah's mind raced. He was trying to go over someone's head. That's my read, and whoever he was trying to reach either didn't answer or didn't care. Or was part of the problem, Sarah said. Chen was quiet for a moment. Yeah, that's the other possibility. Chen, I need access to Fort Carson, to my father's final assignment location, to his office, his files, everything. You're on medical leave, Bennett. I can't authorize. Then unauthorized me. Retroactively. Compassionate reassignment. Family emergency. I don't care what you call it. That's not how it works. Make it work! Sarah's voice cracked. My father was murdered investigating the same case that almost killed Marcus Flynn. Someone's running a theft ring inside the military, and they're killing anyone who gets close. How many more people have to die before we stop playing by rules they're not following? Chen exhaled hard. I'll see what I can do. But Bennett, what? If you're right about this, if there's a network protecting this operation, going to Fort Carson is walking into enemy territory. You understand that? I understand. Good, because I'm not losing another agent to this. The line went dead. Sarah looked up to find Dawson watching her. You're going to Colorado, the sheriff said. Not a question. Soon as I can get clearance. You'll need backup. I'll have Titan. I meant human backup. Sarah almost smiled. Titan's better than most humans I know. Dawson's expression softened slightly. I don't doubt that. But dogs can't testify in court, and if you're building a case against military officers, you're going to need witnesses who can. Then I'll find them. You'll need jurisdiction. I'll get it. And you'll need someone who knows how to navigate military bureaucracy without getting buried in it. Dawson pulled out her phone and typed something. I'm sending you a contact. Name's Colonel Rita Vance, retired JAG attorney. She specializes in military corruption cases, and she doesn't scare easy. Sarah's phone buzzed with the contact information. Why are you helping me? Sarah asked quietly. Dawson met her eyes. Because your father tried to do the right thing and got killed for it. And if I let that stand, if I let them bury the truth along with him, then I'm just as guilty as they are. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Fast, purposeful. A woman appeared, mid-30s, petite frame, sleek black hair, sharp eyes, and a federal ID badge clipped to her jacket.
Agent Lena Park, she announced, voice crisp.
Someone want to tell me why I just flew through a snowstorm to babysit a medical leave agent and a half-dead SEAL? Dawson straightened. Because someone's trying to bury a military corruption case, and they're killing witnesses to do it. Park's expression didn't change, but her eyes sharpened.
I'm listening.
Dawson filled her in, fast, efficient. The burial, the hospital attack, Hayes's death, the phone calls, the connection to Sarah's father. Park listened without interrupting. When Dawson finished, she turned to Sarah.
You're Colonel Bennett's daughter. Yes. I've been trying to access his case files for 6 months. Every request gets blocked at the Pentagon level.
Why?
Because whoever killed your father has friends in very high places.
Park pulled out a tablet and swiped through screens.
I've been tracking military equipment theft across 4 bases. Night vision systems, encrypted radios, tactical body armor.
High-end weapons, street value pushing $50 million over 3 years. Sarah felt her stomach drop.
$50 million?
And that's just what I can prove. The actual numbers probably double that. Park's voice hardened. The equipment's being sold to foreign buyers through a network of corrupt officers and private military contractors. Your father stumbled onto it. So did Lieutenant Flynn. And so did 3 other people who are now conveniently dead.
3 others,
Munoz said sharply. Park nodded. Master Sergeant David Cole, Captain Jennifer Rios, civilian contractor Michael Tang. All died within 18 months. All ruled accidents or suicides. All were asking questions about missing equipment before they died. Sarah's hands clenched into fists.
We need to stop them.
We need evidence, Park corrected. Right now, all we have is bodies and suspicions. That won't hold up in military court.
What about Flynn's encrypted device?
Sarah asked.
He said he hid evidence before he was captured.
Park's eyes lit up. He has a device?
Had. He said he hid it using SEAL protocols. Split the encryption key to protect it.
Where?
He didn't get to tell me before someone tried to kill him.
Park swore under her breath.
We need him conscious. We need that device. And we need it before whoever's running this operation finds it first.
As if on cue, Dr. Martinez emerged from the ICU. Her face was pale.
He's awake, she said. And he's asking for Sarah.
Sarah didn't wait for permission. She moved. Marcus's room was small, sterile, filled with the steady beep of monitors and the hiss of oxygen. He looked worse under the harsh lights, cheeks hollow, lips cracked, eyes sunken. But those eyes were open, clear, focused.
Sarah, he rasped. She crossed to his bedside. Titan followed, pressing close.
Hey,
Sarah said softly.
You scared the hell out of us.
Marcus's mouth twitched into something almost like a smile. Sorry,
wasn't planning on dying tonight.
Someone tried to make sure you did.
Hayes? He's dead. Single gunshot, made to look like suicide. Marcus's jaw tightened. They're cleaning house.
Yeah, which means you're next on the list if we don't move fast.
Sarah leaned closer.
I need to know about the device, where you hid it, how to access it.
Marcus's eyes flicked to the doorway where Park, Dawson, and Munoz stood watching. Who's the Fed?
Agent Lena Park. She's been investigating the theft ring.
Marcus studied Park for a long moment. Then he looked back at Sarah. Your father trusted you. Sarah's throat tightened.
You knew him?
Met him once. 6 months before he died. He contacted me through back channels. Said he'd found something at Fort Carson that was bigger than equipment theft. Said it went all the way to the top.
The top of what?
He didn't say. Just told me to watch my back.
and keep records of everything." Marcus coughed, wincing.
3 days before he died, he called me. Said if anything happens to him, I needed to find the Wyoming drop site and finish what he started.
"What was at the drop site?"
Files, financial records, shipping manifests. Proof that equipment wasn't being stolen randomly. It was being systematically diverted through official channels and sold to hostile nations. The room went silent. Park stepped forward.
"How much proof?"
Enough to implicate 12 officers and God knows how many contractors. Marcus's voice dropped. Your father had everything. Names, dates, wire transfers. He was 3 days from blowing the whole thing open. And then he died, Sarah whispered. And then they killed him, Marcus corrected, because he was about to expose the one person no one suspected. Sarah's pulse hammered. Who? Marcus's eyes locked on hers. Colonel Vincent Cross, your father's commanding officer, his mentor, his friend. Sarah felt the floor drop out from under her. Cross. She remembered him. Silver hair, smooth voice, cold eyes. The man who'd delivered the eulogy at her father's funeral, who'd told her what a hero her father was, who'd promised he'd make sure James Bennett's legacy lived on. Cross killed my father, Sarah said, voice hollow. Cross gave the order, Marcus clarified, but he didn't do it himself. He's too smart for that. He has people, contractors, men like Hayes who do the wet work and then disappear. Park's face had gone hard as stone. Where's the encrypted device now? Marcus hesitated. His gaze moved to Sarah. Do you trust her? Sarah looked at Park, at Dawson, at Munoz. Did she trust them? A week ago, she wouldn't have trusted anyone, wouldn't have let anyone close, would have handled everything alone, and probably died trying. But these people had saved Marcus's life, had protected her, had stood between her and whoever was trying to bury the truth. Yeah, Sarah said quietly. I trust them. Marcus nodded slowly. The device is hidden in a geocache 3 miles north of where you found me. Coordinates are tattooed on my ribcage in UV ink. Park blinked. You tattooed the coordinates on your body? Your father's idea, Marcus said to Sarah. He told me if I was going to hide evidence, I needed to hide the location somewhere they'd never think to look. Dr. Martinez stepped forward with a UV penlight. Let me see. Marcus lifted his hospital gown. There, just below his ribs, invisible under normal light, but glowing under UV, were GPS coordinates. Park photographed them with her phone. Got it. There's a problem, Marcus said. The encryption key is split. Half is on the device. The other half, he looked at Sarah. Your father gave it to someone he trusted. Someone outside the military chain of command. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities. Family? Friends? Colleagues? Who? She asked. Marcus's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Your mother. Sarah felt like she'd been punched. Her mother. Catherine Bennett, elementary school teacher, widow. The woman who'd spent 2 years grieving a husband she thought died in an accident. The woman who might have been sitting on evidence that could bring down a military corruption ring and didn't even know it. I need to call her, Sarah said. Park grabbed her arm. Not on an open line. If Cross has been monitoring you, he's been monitoring your family. Then how? In person. We go to her. Tonight. Dawson shook her head. If you leave this hospital, you're exposed. Cross's people could be anywhere. Then we make it look like I'm staying, Sarah said. Decoy. Deputy in my jacket. I slip out the back with Park. Munoz frowned. That's risky.
Everything about this is risky.
Sarah's voice hardened.
My mother might be in danger, and she doesn't even know it. I'm not leaving her out there alone.
Park nodded. I'll coordinate transport. Unmarked vehicle. We move fast and quiet. I'm coming with you, Marcus said. You can barely sit up, Dr. Martinez protested. I don't care. If Cross figures out I'm alive and talking, your mother becomes a target. Marcus looked at Sarah. Your father saved my life by trusting me with that information. I'm not letting his family pay for it. Dr. Martinez looked ready to argue. Then she sighed. Against my medical advice, you code in the field. I'm not responsible. Noted. Park pulled out her phone. I'll have a vehicle here in 10 minutes. Bennett, you and the dog come with me. Flynn, can you walk? Marcus swung his legs over the side of the bed, swayed, caught himself. I can walk. Dawson's radio crackled. Sheriff, we've got movement at the north entrance. 2 vehicles, no hospital markings. Occupants haven't exited. Dawson's hand moved to her weapon. Describe the vehicles. Black SUVs, tinted windows, military plates. Sarah's blood went cold. Park swore. That's Cross. He's here. How did he know? Munoz started. Doesn't matter. Park cut her off. We need to move, now. Dawson grabbed her radio. All units, we have a potential hostile approach. Lock down the hospital. No one in or out without my authorization. But Sarah knew it was already too late. Because Cross hadn't come alone, and he hadn't come to talk. The lights flickered, once, twice, then went completely dark. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the hallway in dim red light. And somewhere in the distance, Sarah heard the sound of gunfire. Titan's growl was the only warning they got before the door exploded inward and everything went to hell. The door didn't just open, it detonated. Sarah hit the floor on instinct, pulling Marcus down with her as debris sprayed across the room. Titan launched forward with a snarl that sounded like tearing metal, teeth bared, heading straight for the tactical-clad figure stepping through the smoke. Titan, hold! Sarah screamed. The dog stopped mid-lunge, every muscle coiled, but obeying. The figure raised a weapon, not at Titan, at Marcus. Park's gun was already up. Federal agent, drop it! The figure didn't drop it. Didn't fire either. Just stood there, weapon trained, face hidden behind a ballistic mask. Then a voice crackled through a radio on the figure's chest. Stand down! The weapon lowered. Slightly. Dawson's voice came from the hallway, hard and furious. I said lock down this hospital! How the hell did they get past the perimeter? They didn't get past, Munoz's voice answered, shaky. They came through the ambulance bay, showed credentials, said they were military security responding to a threat. What threat? Us, apparently. The tactical figure's radio crackled again. A different voice this time, smooth, familiar. Colonel Vincent Cross. Agent Park, I know you're in there. I'd like to have a conversation. Park's gun didn't waver. Last time someone wanted to have a conversation, they tried to kill my witness. That was unfortunate. Hayes exceeded his authority. Hayes is dead. Yes, another unfortunate incident. Cross's voice remained calm, almost bored. But that's why I'm here, to prevent any more unfortunate incidents. By sending armed men into a hospital? By ensuring Lieutenant Flynn receives the protection he deserves. Clearly, local law enforcement isn't equipped to handle the threat level. Dawson appeared in the doorway, weapon drawn, face carved from ice. Get your people out of my hospital or I start arresting them for assault. Sheriff Dawson, always a pleasure. Cross stepped into view behind his tactical team. Silver hair, expensive coat, eyes like frozen lakes. I'm afraid I can't do that. Lieutenant Flynn is a material witness in a classified military investigation. As such, he falls under my jurisdiction. He's a victim of attempted murder in my county. That makes him mine. Cross smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Sheriff, I respect your dedication, truly. But this situation is beyond local law enforcement. There are national security implications you're not cleared to understand. Then explain them to a judge, Dawson shot back. I don't need a judge. I have orders signed by a 2-star general giving me operational authority over this matter. He pulled out a folded document and held it up. Park's jaw tightened. Let me see that. Cross handed it over. Park scanned it, face darkening with each line. This is real, she said quietly. Of course it's real. Did you think I'd come here without proper authorization? Cross's gaze shifted to Marcus, still on the floor, hospital gown twisted, breathing hard. Lieutenant Flynn, I'm here to bring you to a secure facility where you can receive proper medical care and debriefing. I'm not going anywhere with you, Marcus rasped. That's not a request. Then it's kidnapping. Cross's expression didn't change. It's military procedure. You're AWOL from your unit. You're involved in a classified investigation, and you're making serious allegations against superior officers without evidence. I have evidence. Then you'll present it through proper channels, under controlled conditions, with legal representation. Sarah's hand tightened on Titan's collar. Everything Cross was saying sounded reasonable, professional, exactly what you'd expect from a commanding officer protecting an investigation. Which was what made it so dangerous. Because Sarah had seen her father's body, had read the scrubbed autopsy report, had heard Marcus's whispered warning about not trusting communications. Cross wasn't here to protect Marcus. He was here to silence him. Agent Park, Sarah said quietly. Don't let him take Marcus. Park's eyes flicked to her. I don't have jurisdiction to stop him. That order's legitimate. It's also a death sentence. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Sarah's voice cracked. Because my father trusted his commanding officer and ended up dead in a training field with his hands tied. The room went silent. Cross's gaze locked onto Sarah, really looked at her for the first time. Sarah Bennett, he said softly. James's daughter. You've grown since I last saw you. You spoke at his funeral. I did. Your father was a great man, a mentor, a friend. You killed him. Cross didn't flinch, didn't blink. Your father died in a tragic training accident. I mourned him as much as you did. Liar. I understand grief can create conspiracy theories. I've seen the autopsy report, the real one, the ligature marks on his wrists, the defensive wounds they scrubbed from the official file. Sarah's voice rose. He was restrained before he died. Someone tied him up and made it look like equipment failure. Cross's expression remained neutral, but something flickered behind his eyes. Where did you get that report? Does it matter? It matters because it's classified material obtained through illegal channels, which makes you complicit in espionage. Dawson stepped forward. The only thing illegal here is you trying to intimidate a federal witness. I'm not intimidating anyone, Sheriff. I'm stating facts. Cross's voice hardened slightly. Ms. Bennett is on medical leave from the FBI for psychological instability. She's inserted herself into a military investigation she has no authority to access, and now she's making wild accusations based on stolen documents. They're not wild if they're true, Sarah said. Then prove it. In court, through proper channels. Cross's gaze swept the room. But we both know you can't. Because the only person who could corroborate your theory is Lieutenant Flynn, and he's barely conscious. Marcus coughed, the sound wet and painful. I'm conscious enough to know you buried me alive. Cross's mask slipped. Just for a second. His eyes went cold, flat. That's a serious accusation, Lieutenant. It's the truth. Can you prove it? I will. Then I look forward to your formal statement, under oath, with your attorney present. Cross gestured to his tactical team. Gentlemen, secure the witness for transport. Over my dead body, Dawson said. That can be arranged, Sheriff. Cross's voice went quiet, deadly. But I'd rather not create more paperwork tonight. Park stepped between them, gun still drawn. Nobody's moving until I get clarification from my field office. By all means, make the call. Cross checked his watch. But while you're waiting for authorization, Lieutenant Flynn's safety is compromised. Every minute we stand here arguing, whoever tried to kill him earlier has another chance to finish the job. It was a good point, a logical point, which was exactly why Sarah didn't trust it.
If you're so concerned about his safety, Sarah said, why didn't you post security at the hospital when you first heard he was found?
Cross's eyes narrowed. I did.
Hayes wasn't security, he was an assassin.
Hayes was a paramedic who apparently had his own agenda.
Hayes worked for you.
Hayes worked for County EMS.
His personnel file was scrubbed, his background check was too clean, and he showed up at the exact location where Marcus was buried like he knew exactly where to look.
Sarah's voice shook with fury.
You sent him to finish the job the snow didn't.
Cross's jaw tightened. You're making serious allegations with no evidence.
Then let me search your phone, your emails, your financial records. If you've got nothing to hide,
I'm a colonel in the United States Army. I don't answer to civilians.
You will when I'm done.
Cross stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, actually smiled. You're just like your father. Stubborn, righteous, willing to burn everything down to expose what you think is corruption. He shook his head slowly. James never understood that sometimes the mission requires difficult choices, that sometimes good people have to do questionable things to protect something larger.
Like stealing $50 million in equipment and selling it to foreign nations?
The room went dead silent. Cross's smile vanished. What did you say?
You heard me. You've been running a theft ring for 3 years, diverting military equipment through official channels and selling it to hostile nations. My father found out, Marcus found out, and everyone who found out ended up dead.
That's quite a theory.
It's not a theory. Marcus has proof, encrypted, hidden, and you're never going to find it.
Cross's expression went completely blank. Then he looked at his tactical team and gave a single nod. They moved fast, professional, fanning out to secure the room. Park's gun came up. Don't! Dawson's weapon followed. I will shoot! But Cross's men weren't reaching for Marcus. They were reaching for Sarah. Titan exploded into motion. He hit the nearest operator hard, teeth sinking into the padded arm, dragging the man down with a snarl that sounded like a chainsaw. Sarah dove backward, hand going for her concealed carry, but she wasn't fast enough. A hand grabbed her collar, yanking her off balance. Park fired. The shot went wide, hitting the wall. Dawson fired. Closer. The round caught an operator in the shoulder, and he went down hard. And then everything was chaos. Shouting, gunfire, Titan's savage barking, the sharp chemical smell of gunpowder. Marcus tried to stand, tried to fight, but his legs gave out and he collapsed against the bed. Dr. Martinez appeared in the doorway, saw the carnage, and screamed for security. Cross's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Stand down! Everyone stand down! The shooting stopped. Sarah was on the floor, an operator's knee in her back, arm twisted behind her. Titan was being held by two men, muzzled, struggling but controlled. Park had 3 guns pointed at her head. Dawson was on her knees, weapon kicked away, bleeding from a cut above her eye. Cross stepped into the center of the room, utterly calm, as if violence was just weather. "I gave you a chance to do this professionally," he said quietly. "You chose chaos." "You chose murder," Sarah gasped against the floor. Cross crouched beside her, voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. "Your father chose to be a martyr, chose to expose good men trying to do necessary work, and it got him killed." His hand touched her hair, almost gentle. "Don't make the same mistake." Sarah spat in his face. Cross stood slowly, wiping his cheek with a handkerchief. "Take Bennett and Flynn. Leave the others." "What about the dog?" one of the operators asked. Cross glanced at Titan, still struggling against the restraints. "Kill it." "No!" Sarah screamed. The operator raised his weapon, and the window exploded inward in a spray of glass and gunfire. Federal agents poured through, tactical gear, FBI patches, weapons raised. Leading them was Chen, face carved from rage. "FBI, drop your weapons, now!" Cross's operators hesitated. "I said now!" Chen roared. Slowly, weapons lowered. The operator holding Sarah released her. The men restraining Titan backed away. The dog immediately ran to Sarah, pressing against her, shaking, but alive. Chen crossed to Cross, getting right in his face. "Colonel Vincent Cross, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice, assault on federal agents, and conspiracy to commit murder." Cross's expression never changed. "You have no authority." "I have a warrant signed by a federal judge and a directive from the Secretary of Defense himself." Chen pulled out the paperwork. "Turns out someone's been investigating you for a very long time, and they've been waiting for you to make a mistake." "I don't make mistakes." "You did tonight. You came after a federal witness with unauthorized force. You threatened law enforcement. And you just confessed to knowledge of classified theft operations in front of multiple witnesses." Chen's smile was savage. "You're done." Cross's jaw tightened. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. Then his hand moved toward his jacket. "Gun!" someone shouted. Chen's weapon came up, but Cross wasn't pulling a gun. He was pulling a phone. He pressed a button and spoke one word. "Execute." Then he dropped the phone and raised his hands in surrender. Sarah's blood went cold. "Execute what?" Cross smiled. "Insurance policy." Chen's phone rang. He answered, face going white as he listened. "When?" he asked. Then, "How many?" His eyes closed. "Understood." He hung up and looked at Sarah. "Your mother's house just exploded. Fire department's on scene. No confirmed casualties yet." Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room spun. Her mother. Her mother. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Marcus's hand found hers, squeezing tight despite his weakness. "Sarah." "He killed her. He killed my mother." "You don't know that. First responders are still searching." But Sarah knew. In her gut, in her bones, she knew. Cross had just taken everything from her. Her father, her mother, her family. She turned to look at him. He was being cuffed, face calm, utterly unrepentant.
Why?
Sarah asked, voice breaking.
She wasn't part of this. She didn't know anything.
Cross met her eyes. She knew enough. Your father gave her something before he died. Something he thought would be safe with a civilian. He was wrong. The encryption key, Park breathed. Cross smiled. Now you'll never access Flynn's device. The evidence dies with Catherine Bennett. Sarah's vision tunneled. Her hands clenched into fists. Every fiber of her being screamed to attack, to hurt, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain tearing through her chest. Titan pressed against her leg, grounding her. Chen's voice cut through the haze.
Bennett, look at me.
She did.
Your mother was smart. Your father was smart. You think they didn't have a backup plan?
Sarah blinked.
What? Your father was special forces before he became an officer. He knew how to hide things, how to protect assets.
Chen glanced at Marcus.
Where would he have put a backup encryption key?
Marcus's eyes widened. With someone he trusted completely. Someone outside the military. Someone who'd never be suspected. Sarah's mind raced. Her mother had the key. But if Cross thought destroying her house would destroy the evidence,
she didn't keep it at home,
Sarah whispered. Where then? Park asked. Sarah thought back to her childhood, her father's habits, his paranoia about security, his insistence that important things should never be kept in obvious places. And then she remembered.
Her classroom,
Sarah said.
My mother's a teacher. She's been working at the same elementary school for 20 years. She has a storage closet full of family photos and personal items. My father used to joke that it was the safest place in the world because nobody thinks to look for military secrets in a second-grade classroom. Park's face lit up. What school? Mountain View Elementary, 20 minutes from here. Chen was already on his phone. I need tactical units at Mountain View Elementary immediately. Possible hostile approach. Secure all access points. He hung up and looked at Sarah. If you're right, if the key's there, Cross's people are going to hit that school the second they realize the house was a decoy. Then we need to get there first, Sarah said. You're not cleared for tactical operations. I don't care about clearance. That's my mother's life work in that classroom. That's my father's legacy. I'm not letting them destroy it. Chen studied her, then nodded. Gear up. You've got 5 minutes. Sarah stood, legs shaking, Titan pressed against her side. Cross's voice followed her to the door. You can't win this, Sarah. Even if you find the key, even if you access the device, you have no idea how deep this goes, how many people are involved, how much power is protecting this operation. Sarah turned back, looked him dead in the eye. My father fought until his last breath. Marcus survived being buried alive. My mother, her voice cracked. My mother might be dead because of you. You think I'm going to quit now? Cross's smile faded. You're going to die trying. Maybe, but I'll die standing, which is more than you'll do. She walked out. Behind her, she heard Chen's voice, cold and final. Colonel Vincent Cross, you have the right to remain silent. But Sarah wasn't listening anymore. Because somewhere out there, her mother was either alive or dead. And the only way to know for sure was to reach that school before Cross's people burned it to the ground. The drive to Mountain View Elementary took 12 minutes that felt like 12 hours. Sarah sat in the passenger seat of Chen's SUV, hands gripping her knees, knuckles white. Titan pressed against her leg in the back, sensing her fear, sharing it.
Park drove like she was racing death itself, weaving through late-night traffic with federal lights blazing. Chen's phone rang constantly. Updates, coordinates, confirmations. Fire department confirmed one body in the house, he said quietly. Female, burned beyond recognition. Dental records will take time. Sarah's stomach turned. She pressed her hand against her mouth, fighting nausea. It might not be her, Park said without taking her eyes off the road. It's her house. Cross could have planted a body, created a diversion. Sarah wanted to believe that, to cling to hope like it was a life raft. But hope was a luxury she'd lost 3 months ago, when a 12-year-old girl died because Sarah had negotiated too slowly, trusted too easily, believed too hard that words could stop bullets. Marcus's voice crackled through the radio from the tactical van following behind. Sarah, your mother's smart. She taught second grade for 20 years. Those are the most paranoid people on Earth. If anyone could survive Cross's hit team, it's her. You don't know that. I know your father chose her, and he didn't choose weak people. Sarah closed her eyes, breathed, tried to find the center her training had taught her existed somewhere beneath the panic. 2 minutes out, Park announced. Chen's phone buzzed again. He answered, listened, and his face went hard. Say that again. Pause. How many? Another pause. Copy that. He hung up and looked at Sarah. Tactical team just reported 3 vehicles approaching the school from the east. Black SUVs, no plates, moving fast. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. Cross's people. They're 2 minutes behind us. Then we have 2 minutes to find that key and get out. Park's jaw tightened. Or we stand and fight. Against how many? However many they send. The school appeared ahead. Single-story building, brick and glass, playground equipment casting strange shadows in the security lights. Chen's team had already secured the perimeter. Agents in tactical gear positioned at every entrance, weapons ready, eyes scanning. Park pulled up to the main entrance and everyone piled out. Sarah's legs felt shaky, but she forced them to work. Titan stayed glued to her side, ears rotating, tracking every sound. Principal Hayes met them at the door. Different Hayes, no relation. An older black woman with gray braids and tired eyes, who looked like she'd been woken from sleep and told her school was about to become a battlefield. Agent Chen, I don't understand what's happening, she said, voice tight with controlled panic. Ma'am, we need access to Catherine Bennett's classroom, right now. Catherine's not here. There was a fire at her house. We know. That's why we need her classroom. Principal Hayes's eyes widened with understanding. You think someone's coming for her things? We know they are. She didn't waste time with questions, just pulled out a key ring and led them down the hallway at a near run. Their footsteps echoed against polished floors. Bulletin boards covered in children's artwork, alphabet letters on doors, the smell of cafeteria food and cleaning supplies. Normal, peaceful, about to be shattered. Here, Principal Hayes said, unlocking a door marked Mrs. Bennett, second grade. Sarah stepped inside and her breath caught. The room was exactly as she remembered. Colorful, warm, desks arranged in clusters, a reading corner with beanbags, posters about kindness and friendship. And on every wall, photographs. Students, family, memories. The storage closet's in the back, Principal Hayes said. Sarah crossed the room, opened the closet door, and stopped. It was packed. Boxes of old lesson plans, supplies, art projects, and on the top shelf, a small metal lockbox with her father's military insignia stamped on the lid. There, Sarah whispered. She pulled it down. Locked. Combination lock. We don't have time for this, Park said. 3-digit code. How many combinations? 1,000, Chen said. We need bolt cutters. But Sarah was already spinning the dial. Her father's birthday. Click. Nothing. Her mother's birthday. Click. Nothing. Their anniversary. Click. Nothing. Sarah, Park started. Wait. Sarah's hands trembled as she tried one more combination. Her own birthday. Click. The lock opened. Inside was a single USB drive and a handwritten note. Sarah recognized her father's handwriting immediately. Precise, controlled. Each letter formed like a military drill. Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm dead and your mother gave you this key. I'm sorry. I wanted to protect you both from this, but some truths are bigger than safety. The men I served with betrayed everything we fought for. They're selling our equipment to enemies, lining their pockets with blood money. And when I tried to expose them, they decided I was expendable. The evidence is on Marcus Flynn's encrypted device. The key to access it is on this drive. Use it. Expose them. Finish what I started. And Sarah, don't trust anyone in uniform until you know for certain they're clean. This goes higher than you think. I love you. I'm proud of you. And I'm sorry I won't be there to see you become the woman I always knew you'd be. Dad. Sarah's vision blurred. She blinked hard, refusing to let the tears fall. Not now. Not yet. Chen's radio crackled. Perimeter team to command. 3 vehicles just pulled into the parking lot. Armed occupants exiting. Estimate 12 hostiles. 12, Park swore. We've got 8 agents. Then we hold them at the entrance, Chen said. Buy time for Bennett to get that drive out. I'm not leaving, Sarah said. You're the only one who can access Flynn's device. You need to survive this. So do you. An explosion rocked the building. Windows shattered. Car alarms screamed. They're breaching the east entrance, someone shouted over the radio. Gunfire erupted. Fast. Professional. The sound of trained operators who didn't miss. Chen grabbed Sarah's arm. Go out the west exit. Now. My team will cover you. What about the children? What if it's Saturday night? The school's empty except for us. Chen's grip tightened. Sarah, you have to go. If they get that drive, your father died for nothing. Sarah looked at Park, at Principal Hayes, at the classroom where her mother had taught hundreds of children to read and dream and believe in goodness. Come with me, Sarah said to Hayes. I'm not leaving my school. They'll kill you. Then I'll die protecting it. The sound of gunfire grew closer. Tactical commands. Return fire. Someone screaming. Park grabbed Sarah's other arm. Move. Now. They ran. Sarah clutched the USB drive like it was made of light itself. Titan led the way, nose down, guiding them through hallways Sarah had walked as a child visiting her mother at work. They burst through the west exit into cold night air and stopped. Because 4 men in tactical gear stood waiting, weapons raised, faces hidden behind masks. Drop the drive, one of them said. Last chance. Sarah's hand moved toward her concealed carry. Don't, the man warned. You're fast, but you're not faster than 4 triggers. Titan growled, body coiled, ready to attack on command. Call off your dog, or we shoot it. Sarah's throat tightened. He's just... I don't care. Call him off. Sarah looked at Titan, at his loyal eyes, his absolute trust. She couldn't let them kill him. Titan, fuss, she whispered. The dog moved to her side, still tense, but obeying. Smart. Now the drive. Sarah's mind raced. If she gave them the drive, they'd kill her anyway. If she didn't, they'd kill her and take it.
Either way, she was dead. But maybe she could buy time. "I'll give you the drive," Sarah said slowly. "But first, tell me who ordered the hit on my mother."
The lead operator tilted his head. "Why does it matter?"
"Because I want to know who I'm dying for."
A pause. Then, almost amused, "Colonel Cross sends his regards."
"Cross is in custody."
"Cross has friends. Powerful friends. They'll have him out before sunrise. Not if his network collapses first. It won't. You think one USB drive will bring down an operation this big? We've been running this for 5 years. 12 officers, 40 contractors, 50 million in equipment. You're a mosquito trying to stop a train." Sarah's finger tightened on the USB drive.
"Then why do you care about one mosquito?"
"Because mosquitoes carry disease, and we don't take chances." He raised his weapon. Titan lunged. The shot went wide as 80 pounds of Belgian Malinois hit the operator like a missile. They went down hard, the man screaming as Titan's teeth found his arm. The other 3 operators turned their weapons toward the dog. Sarah drew her sidearm and fired. Center mass. The nearest operator dropped. Park fired from beside her. Another operator down. Return fire erupted. Sarah dove behind a dumpster, bullets sparking off metal. Titan released the first operator and ran to her, blood on his muzzle but eyes bright.
"Good boy,"
Sarah gasped.
"Good boy."
More gunfire from inside the school. Chen's voice on the radio. "West exit team, report!" Park grabbed Sarah's radio. "We're engaged. 4 hostiles, 2 down." "Roger that. Reinforcements en route. Hold position." But the remaining operators were advancing. Professional. Coordinated. Using cover. Flanking. Sarah fired twice more. Missed. Her hands were shaking too hard.
"I can't do this," she thought. "I'm not ready. I'm not."
Titan barked once. Sharp. Focused. And Sarah remembered. She'd negotiated for 12 hours trying to save a little girl. Had done everything by the book. Everything right. And the girl had died anyway. Because sometimes doing everything right still isn't enough. But she'd also pulled a Navy SEAL out of a frozen grave when everyone said he was dead. Had survived 2 attempts on her life. Had faced down a corrupt colonel and lived. Maybe she wasn't the negotiator she'd been 3 months ago. Maybe she was something else now. Something harder. Sarah's hands steadied. She leaned around the dumpster and fired. Once. Twice. 3 times. The 3rd operator went down. The 4th one ran. Park chased him 3 steps, fired, and he collapsed. Silence. Sarah's ears rang. Her heart hammered. Her hands ached from gripping the gun. "Clear," Park said, voice shaking slightly. Chen and his team burst through the west exit, weapons raised, sweeping for threats. "Status," Chen demanded. 4 hostiles down, Park reported. "Bennett has the drive." Chen looked at Sarah, at the USB drive still clutched in her hand, at Titan standing guard, blood on his teeth. "You did good, kid." Sarah almost laughed. Almost. But the sound came out wrong, broken, like something inside her had finally cracked open.
"My mother."
Chen's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression softened. "Copy that." "Yes, I'll tell her." He hung up and looked at Sarah. "Fire department just confirmed. The body in the house wasn't your mother. Detect records don't match. Age is wrong. Female, mid-50s, but not Catherine Bennett." Sarah's knees gave out. She sat down hard on the pavement, Titan immediately pressing against her, whining softly.
"Where is she?"
Sarah whispered. They found her at a neighbor's house. She'd gone over for coffee earlier in the evening, saw suspicious vehicles at her house, got spooked and stayed put. Chen's voice gentled. She's alive, Sarah. Shaken up, but alive. Sarah pressed her face into Titan's fur and finally let herself cry. Not sad tears, not relieved tears, just tears. The kind that come when a person's been holding on so tight for so long that letting go feels like falling. Park crouched beside her. You okay?
No. But I will be.
That's the most honest thing anyone said all night. Chen's radio crackled. All units, school is secure. Hostiles in custody. Multiple casualties. Medical en route. Sarah stood slowly, legs shaking but holding.
We need to get to Marcus.
Use the drive to access the device. Agreed, but first, Chen held out his hand. Let me secure that evidence before something else tries to kill you for it. Sarah handed over the USB drive. It felt lighter without it. Or maybe she just felt lighter. They walked back through the school, past bullet holes and shattered glass, past Chen's agents securing prisoners, past Principal Hayes sitting in her office with a blanket around her shoulders and steel in her eyes.
Thank you for protecting the children's work,
Hayes said quietly.
Even if they weren't here tonight. Thank you for protecting my mother's legacy,
Sarah replied. Outside, ambulances were arriving. FBI forensics, local law enforcement. The organized chaos of a crime scene. Dawson appeared from somewhere, face bruised, arm bandaged, eyes blazing. Someone better tell me what the hell just happened to my county. We stopped a military corruption ring, Chen said simply.
Your county's going to be famous.
I don't want famous. I want quiet. You're not getting quiet for a while. Dawson looked at Sarah. You good?
Getting there.
Your dog's a hell of a fighter. Sarah looked down at Titan, at his graying muzzle and loyal eyes.
Best partner I've ever had.
Human or canine?
Both.
They drove back to the hospital where Marcus was being moved to a secure federal facility. When they arrived, he was sitting up, looking stronger, color returning to his face. You got it? He asked immediately. Sarah held up the USB drive.
Both keys. Ready to access the device.
Park had already retrieved it from the geocache location using the UV coordinates. She set up a laptop, connected the encrypted device, and inserted the USB drive. The screen flickered, code scrolled, and then files appeared. Hundreds of them. Financial records, wire transfers, shipping manifests, emails, photos, audio recordings. Everything her father had collected. Everything Marcus had added. 5 years of evidence documenting systematic theft of military equipment and its sale to hostile nations. Names, dates, bank accounts. Proof that couldn't be denied or explained away. My God, Park whispered. This goes all the way to the Pentagon. Chen leaned closer. How high? General Wesley Thompson, commander of Logistics Command. He authorized every diversion. The room went silent. A 2-star general. Cross wasn't the head of the operation. He was middle management. We need to move on this immediately, Chen said, before someone buries it. Too late, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. A woman stood there, late 50s, silver hair in a military cut, 2 stars on her uniform. General Patricia Moreno, commander of Army CID. General, Chen started. I've been investigating General Thompson for 8 months, Moreno said quietly. Your evidence just gave me everything I need to bring formal charges.
You knew?
Sarah asked.
I suspected.
But suspicion isn't proof. What you recovered tonight is proof. Moreno's expression hardened.
Colonel Bennett was a friend. He contacted me 2 weeks before he died, told me he'd found something but needed time to gather evidence. I told him to be careful.
Her voice cracked slightly.
I should have pulled him out immediately. Should have protected him. You couldn't have known,
Sarah said.
I should have.
Moreno looked at Marcus.
Lieutenant Flynn, your courage saved lives tonight. Colonel Bennett's daughter has her father's evidence, and tomorrow, we're going to burn this entire network to the ground.
What about Cross? Sarah asked. Cross is already cooperating. Gave us names, locations, account numbers. He knows the death penalty's on the table. He's trying to bargain.
Don't let him.
Moreno's eyes flashed.
I won't. He killed good soldiers, betrayed everything we stand for.
He'll spend the rest of his life in Leavenworth if I have anything to say about it. Chen's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and smiled. Secretary of Defense just issued arrest warrants for 12 officers and 43 contractors. FBI is executing them now. Sarah felt something in her chest finally loosen. It was over. Not finished, not healed, but over. Her father's death had meaning now. His sacrifice hadn't been in vain. The corruption he'd died exposing was finally coming to light. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now, Chen said, you recover. You testify. You help us put these bastards away for the rest of their lives. And after that? After that, you live, however you want, wherever you want, on your terms. Marcus looked at Sarah. What about you? Back to the FBI? Sarah thought about it, about negotiations and hostage situations, and the 12-year-old girl whose face she'd never forget.
I don't know, she said honestly. Maybe. Maybe something else. Maybe I just need time to figure out who I am now.
Fair enough.
Doctor.
Martinez appeared, looking exhausted but satisfied. My patient needs rest. All of you, out. They filed out slowly. Park shook Sarah's hand. Dawson nodded with respect. Chen squeezed her shoulder and said, Take whatever time you need. Your job will be waiting. And finally, it was just Sarah and Titan in the empty hallway. She sat down on the floor, her back against the wall, and Titan lay beside her, his head on her lap.
We did it,
Sarah whispered.
Dad would be proud.
Titan's tail wagged once, softly. Sarah's phone buzzed, a text from her mother.
Come home. I'll make coffee. We'll talk.
Home. Sarah realized she wasn't sure where that was anymore. The FBI? Her mother's house? The cabin in Wyoming where this had all started? Maybe home wasn't a place. Maybe it was just the choice to keep going, to keep fighting, to refuse to let the darkness win. Sarah stood slowly. Titan rose with her, ever faithful, ever present.
Come on, boy,
she said.
Let's go home.
And for the first time in 3 months, Sarah walked forward without looking back. The 12-year-old girl's face was still there, would always be there, but it didn't weigh her down the same way anymore, because now it was joined by other faces. Marcus, alive. Her mother, safe. Her father, honored. All the people who'd survived because Sarah had refused to quit. Because she'd dug when others would have walked away. Because one woman and one dog had looked at a patch of snow and decided impossible wasn't good enough. The snow hadn't buried them. And it never would.